Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hooked on Sports here on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn, and thank you so very much for listening to the podcast today. So today is Tuesday, March 17th. It is St. Patrick's Day all over the world. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone who celebrates. And so I was off the air for the last 3 weeks because I was busy with other things. So my apologies for not coming back to record sooner, but it was all for good and important reasons. But this episode is recorded just in time for you guys to fill out your brackets, and in today's 400th, it's a special 400th episode. I will do all things March Madness, the NCAA men's basketball tournament, and it's going to be a great stuff all around. So. I want to start though by reacting to everything that transpired on Selection Sunday. So the four number one seeds were Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida. I thought these were the four best teams I saw all year long, and I think the four most deserving the four teams that were most deserving of the one seeds in the NCAA tournament this year. I also believed that that I thought didn't have see a problem with Purdue moving all the way up to the last two seed with them winning the Big Ten championship over Michigan and you have to give Purdue some credit because they were the preseason number one team in the AP poll, but they were a little inconsistent, but now they're starting to hit their stride, and what Braden Smith has done has simply been out of this world. Yeah, he was exceptional in the Big Ten tournament for the Boilermakers, and now he is one assist away from breaking Bobby Hurley's NCAA Division One record for career assists, and Braden Smith does it in his fourth year and as a senior. So he deserves a lot of credit. But there was also so we'll get into the bubble in a second. But there was also some reaction of about St. John's, despite winning the Big East championship and destroying a really strong UConn team by 20 points in the Big East championship. They were concerned that people thought that they got a 4 seed, and I for one tried to see if it can make it make sense, but I think St. John's is was a 5 because they had a bunch of quad one opportunities in the non-conference portion of their schedule, like Alabama, Iowa State, Kentucky, and then Auburn. Auburn was one of the first teams out. Um, one of the first four out in the tournament, but then Alabama made it as a 4. Iowa State is a 2 seed, and Kentucky got in as a 7. And then of course the home loss to Providence back in January, which that and UConn and the 32-point loss to UConn in conference play really were the two losses that lit fires under their asses, and they wound up playing the best basketball of the season, and they're doing it at just the right time. But St. John's is not only a 5 seed; they have to go out west and play on Friday in San Diego against a really good Northern Iowa squad. So that was a reaction there. And then the last 4 teams in were Texas, NC State, Miami, Ohio, and SMU. And I, for one, am happy that Miami, Ohio got in. As a because the odds of Miami, Ohio, despite having an all-time bad what I can't really say all-time bad. It's just just a weak schedule, not much in the way in terms of non-conference strength, and then the conference being kind of underwhelming. They went 31-0 during the regular season. I mean, you can't not put them in with a perfect regular season. They wound up losing in their first game in the tournament to UMass, based out of Amherst. But the MAC is a two bid league this year, and the Atlantic 10 is a two bid league this year, and the West Coast Conference in the last year of it as we know it, because Gonzaga is moving to the Pac-12 at the end of the academic year. You got Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and Santa Clara. I'm happy Santa Clara got a 10 seed, and they got kind of a favorable matchup against Kentucky, but I think those four those are really the kind of the big takeaways from all this. So I think the committee did an outstanding job. I think they got it right. I think I'm happy that they didn't reward to Auburn for playing one of the toughest schedules in all of college basketball, and still and then losing 16 games, and they're trying to beg the committee to get them in. They wound up they wound up being left out, and I think that quad three loss at home, I believe, to Ole Miss was the result that left them out. So that's the result there. And also one other note, that BCU is seated just underneath Miami, Ohio, which was the lowest seeded at large in the field. So VCU would have been left out of the tournament had they lost the A10 championship game on Sunday to Dayton. But VCU goes back to back. First time in a while we had a school in the A10 go back to back, win back to back conference championships. So I mean, tells you how competitive that league is. So we got St. Louis, that they slotted in as a 9, and then VCU, what was the last 11 seed, in the tournament. So overall, I thought the committee got it right. For the vast majority of it, I think the exception is St. John's, but I think. But I think they kind of deserve the 4 without how they've been playing the last couple months. But again, the quad one, the missed quad one opportunities, are hurt St. John's in their ability to get a protected seed. So we'll see how that transpires. So what we're going to do now is, I'm going to share, if you are watching the podcast on my on my on my on YouTube. I'm gonna pull up the full the screen of the graph of the bracket. So this was with a custom fonted one I made on Photoshop the other night. So we're gonna start here with the East Regional, and we are going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to give you my predictions for each game, and I'm gonna basically reveal my bracket, because I really don't anticipate things to change in my bracket, because I kind of have like a good idea of who I want to win. So let's actually briefly start with the first 4 games. I'm gonna give you some winners for that. So I like UMBC over Howard. I like Lehigh over Prairie View A&M. I do like Texas over NC State. NC State, despite struggling down the stretch, they wound up getting in. And then I do like SMU. I mean, SMU is favored by 7 points against Miami, Ohio. I think the historic season of Miami, Ohio comes to an end there. So with that being the canvas, let's go back into the as into everything there. So so we're gonna start with the East Regional, and we're gonna start with with the games. So if you were following this on your as on the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of that. So you should be on the upper left quadrant of your bracket. So we got Duke and Siena, because Duke, because the number one overall seed taking on Siena. They won the MAC, the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference championship with a 10-point win over Merrimack. And Siena's coached by Jerry McNamara, and there are rumors circulating that he might be the next head coach at Syracuse, to replace Adrian Autry, who was fired there. So I like Duke over Siena. Ohio State TCU is actually a more intriguing 8 versus 9 matchup than I thought, but I like Ohio State, because I really liked how they played down the stretch. They got a big home win against Purdue a couple of weeks ago. I think that was really the telltale sign that not only were they going to make were they going to make the tournament, but they're favored to win their round of 64 games. So I like Ohio State to defeat TCU. I thought St. John's had as tough a draw as you could have, for a first round matchup. With the seeding, obviously we discussed earlier, but having to go all the way to San Diego on Friday to take on Northern Iowa, and Northern Iowa I think is a tremendous, well coached team, one of the best mid major teams. They won the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, or also better known to the diehards as Arch Madness. But I just think St. John's is playing the best basketball of the year, and they're just a physical team. And Zuby Ejiofor has taken his level of play to an entirely different level here. So I do like St. John's to beat Northern Iowa. Kansas and Cal Baptist, I really like Kansas, but Cal Baptist is a good story. Dominic Daniels has been one of the best players in mid-major ball, in February, and then he had a game he had a game-winning 3-point shot with under 20 seconds left in their conference championship game to get into the tournament. So that's a good story, but I do like Kansas to beat Cal Baptist, setting up a potential matchup between Bill Self and Rick Pitino in round two. Onto the bottom of the East Regional bracket, Louisville, South Florida. I'm going to be honest with you. The last game I circled last year was McNeese Clemson. Because I thought Clemson had Final Four potential last year because they were top 25 in offensive and defensive efficiency. Played really well. I thought they could have matched up well with the Houston team that eventually went to the national championship game. I kind of get last year's Clemson vibes with this Louisville team. So Louisville, I know this is spelt wrong, but whatever. Year two with Pat Kelsey. But I think Louisville's a better team than they were last year. But I just love the matchup for South Florida. So I mean, they're big. They have a good front court, and I think they can do things. And also Brian Hodgson going to Buffalo in this game, so I think it's great. Yeah, but I think Brian Hodgson completes a really nice story by getting the 11-6 upset with South Florida over Louisville. Michigan State is going to defeat North Dakota State. Damn, UCLA and Central Florida. I love UCLA, especially the way they've been playing down the stretch of the season. UConn's going to beat Furman. So I'm gonna give you my my picks for round two here. Um yeah, so I like Duke over Ohio State in round two. They go to the Sweet 16. I like St. John's to beat Kansas in round two. I don't think Kansas is as good a team as they are when they play at Allen Fieldhouse. I like Michigan State to knock off South Florida. They go Tom Izzo goes to another Sweet 16. And I like UCLA to beat UConn. I mean, because UConn has been a little sus. I would say I would say in recent weeks. Because you kind of think of some of the losses they had. They lost to Marquette, which basically ended their chances of getting the fourth number one seed. And then also too getting spanked in the Big East championship game uh, uh, didn't help as well. So I like UCLA. I think they're a more inspired team. A Mick Cronin versus Danny Hurley matchup. I think favors you. I like UCLA to go to the Sweet 16. And then I like Duke going to the Elite Eight, and I think UCLA is going to be a surprise here because I think you always have to factor in how well teams are playing going into the tournament. So not only do I have UCLA winning, I have them going all the way to the Elite Eight, but I think Duke is going to go to the Final Four. Now let's go to the West region here, because Arizona wound up getting the second overall seed in the entire tournament. So with them winning the Pac-12, not the Pac-12, and because it used to be in the Pac-12, but there'll be a new Pac-12 forming next year anyway. So I have Arizona won the Big 12 champion regular season and conference championships. So they got the second number one seed. They drew LIU. So they wound up winning their conference. But I like Arizona. Utah State is a really good 9 seed, and I think they could give Arizona a run for their money. I love them to beat Villanova. I think they're gonna win that game by double digits. In all honesty, because I wasn't inspired with the way Villanova had been playing down the stretch, and plus, Villanova playing in an underwhelming Big East that only produced three bids for the tournament this year. So I like Utah State to beat Villanova. Was setting up a potentially fun, potentially delicious round two matchup with Arizona. Wisconsin and High Point. I mean, I kind of like Wisconsin, because I think Wisconsin has been playing really well. I think Wisconsin had as good a win as any team in the entire country when they went to Michigan and beat the Wolverines when they were at full strength. I love Arkansas over Hawaii. BYU versus the winner of Texas versus NC State. I know BYU is the team with AJ Debansa. So he can in theory carry a team. Because he has the talent really to carry a team. To carry a team. To the Elite Eight, but I do like the winner of the Texas NC State game, which I think is going to be Texas. I think they take down BYU. So because I think every year there's usually someone that plays that first in that first four that wins their round one matchup. We saw that with FDU few years ago. I think we saw that with Colorado over Florida a couple years ago. So we have that. Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. I like Gonzaga. Miami, Florida, and Missouri. So their sub region is in St. Louis. So it's not too terrible of a travel for the Missouri Tigers. But I think the way Miami, Florida has been playing So since really over the last 5 6 weeks, I think that they've played some inspired basketball. So I like Miami to beat Missouri. I love Purdue to beat Queens. Just setting up a fun round two matchup potentially with Miami, Florida, and Purdue. So so now my pick it's now my picks for round round two. So I think I have Arizona beating Utah State. Won't be easy, but I think they should be able to take care of business and advance to another Sweet 16 with Tommy Lloyd. I like Arkansas. Darius Acuff has been just been terrific this year. Um, it's in all intents and purposes uh, uh, really to win. So I think Arizona and Arkansas, Jaden Bradley versus Darius Acuff, potential Sweet 16 matchup would be delicious. I have Gonzaga, going to the Sweet 16 because Gonzaga will get to the Sweet 16 pretty much every year, except for last year where they were paired up against a Houston team that was up by 10 points at one point in the national championship game. So it was a brutal draw for the Zags not to get into that seven seed line last year, but they'll have to settle for but this year they get a 3 seed. They won their conference championship. I think they go to the Sweet 16. Purdue, I think goes to the Sweet 16 as well. They're playing they're playing as well as anybody. I think, in my opinion, in the sport. So now we turn our attention really now to the Midwest region in of the bracket. So we're gonna go over there now. So let's start with that as the Midwest regionals will be in Chicago next weekend. So we got Michigan again against I believe UMBC. I like Michigan to win that. No 16-1 Cinderella this time for UMBC like it was 8 years ago against when they defeated Virginia. So St. Louis and Georgia, I think that's a fun match, a good matchup because I think both teams can score at least 80 points in this one, but I do like St. Louis to win that game. So it's, and I think that this is and I think that this sub region regional pod I think is such a delicious feel it is such a delicious um thing here. But I right now I think Texas Tech is banged up with so with because again Texas Tech does not have JT Toppin who suffered a brutal injury in a game against Arizona State in conference play, and they haven't quite been the same team since, but I do think that they're well coached. But with all of the Miami Ohio hype, Akron has kind of flown under the radar as one of the better mid majors. I mean, because the predictive metrics showed that that they were the best team in the MAC all year, and despite not being 31-0, they were playing really good ball all throughout. So I like. So you know what I'm gonna do it. I like Akron to beat Texas Tech, and I like Hofstra to beat Alabama. And I'm not saying this because Hofstra is not that far away from where I live. I think Hofstra can do some things that can disrupt Alabama's rhythm. Now the big story today that came out today was that Alabama's starting point guard Aiden Holloway was charged with a Class C felony of first degree possession of marijuana. So he's not allowed to be on campus. So he kind of technically can play, but I don't think it would be sending a good message to the alumni anyway. But anyways, I do think Hofstra is going to beat Alabama. Is setting up a potential if it's correct a mid-major series in round two between Akron and Hofstra if my picks are correct there. I like Tennessee beating the winner of Miami, Ohio, SMU, which I have as SMU. Virginia beats Wright State. Kentucky beats Santa Clara. No, actually, no. I actually have Santa Clara beating Kentucky. Kentucky's been a little sus down the stretch. But they did play Florida tough in the their SEC quarterfinal match. So I do like Santa Clara. Iowa State beats Tennessee State. I mean, I was considering Tennessee State because they are as hot a mid major team as there is. They won the Ohio Valley Conference and they won their conference tournament by 25 points, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Iowa State has been playing so well, and Iowa State is in that conversation to win a national championship this year. So my round two matchups, I like Michigan to advance. I think Hofstra is the Cinderella of the tournament. They go to the Sweet 16. I have I currently have Virginia beating Tennessee. They go to the Sweet 16 and then Iowa State against Tennessee. Iowa State against Santa Clara. I think this could be a matchup as well. But I do like Iowa State to advance alongside. So we get 113. We get Michigan, Hofstra. I think Michigan will win that one, and then Virginia and Iowa State. I think I do like Iowa State to advance and then Michigan, Iowa State, two teams that I had in my bubble, my potential championship bubble about a month ago. It's still the case there, but I think despite the injuries, I just think Dusty May is going to find a way to get this Wolverine squad into the Final Four. And I know Michigan's dealing with some injuries, obviously, but I think they can get it done. But I won't fight you if you have Iowa State in your Final Four. So that's obviously that's obviously something that you can yeah that you can think about as you continue on. Now we're gonna go to the South region now as we get the regionals will take place in Houston, and Florida wound up being the fourth number one seed because Florida lost in the SEC semifinal to Vandy on Saturday. Maybe this might try and lock them in and see if Todd Golden makes some adjustments. I have Florida. I think Florida will score 100 points on whoever comes out of that Lehigh Prairie View A&M game. On I think that game is on Wednesday. Clemson against Iowa. I just think Iowa has been playing better. I think they're more inspired. Bennett Sturts, who led Drake to an 11-6 upset last year. I think he will do the same this year against Clemson. Give me Iowa to beat Clemson. Vanderbilt and McNeese. I think it is such an intriguing 5-12 matchup. But right, but I'm gonna swing for the fences here. I'm gonna take I'm gonna take McNeese to beat to upset Vanderbilt. I think I mean Vanderbilt's been playing well, but I currently have McNeese winning that one. Nebraska, Troy. I do like Nebraska. But there's actually a good amount of pressure for the Cornhuskers because they have never won an NCAA tournament game. Against the Troy team that's figuring to be a popular 13-4 upset. I mean, Troy is a respectable squad, but I don't see it with them. I'm taking Nebraska to win. North Carolina and VCU. I love VCU over North Carolina. North Carolina um is they're without Caleb Wilson. Illinois is going to be 10. St. Mary's, I like them to beat A&M, Texas A&M, and Houston will beat Idaho. So my round two, I it's Florida over Iowa. I think it should be I think Iowa would have the guard advantage in that one, but I think Florida has such a good backcourt. I like Nebraska to advance, beating McNeese. I think Illinois. Because I think Illinois is kind of flown under the radar, but they are such a good team. Um, Illinois, I think they will defeat VCU. And then in the matchup between Houston and St. Mary's, I do like Houston to win that one. Setting up a chalky Sweet 16 in the South region. I think it will remain that way with Florida and Houston going to the Elite Eight. So, but I do think Florida is going to advance to the Final Four, and yeah, and I think the thing is with I think the bracket this year's tournament, because what I feel is that the gap between like the 7 to 10 best teams in the country, and I think the underlying story here, I think, is the ever growing influence of NIL money. So you have that, but I just think the gap between like the 7 to 10 best teams and the rest of and the rest of the sport is one of the widest I've ever seen. So yeah, the last year, so you had a bunch of ones and twos in the Elite Eight, and I think it's going to be the same this year. I think similarity to last year is that UConn, a 2 seed out of the Big East, losing in round two. Um, and then I have a team like UCLA, who have been playing well, and again, this is obviously with the expectation that Donovan Dent and Tyler Bilodeau will return to action when UCLA plays UCF this week. But they can play and they can beat you in a lot of different ways. So that's my logic between for all of that. So Final Four: Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and Florida. Duke and Florida was the matchup I thought we were going to get for the national championship game last year. But it did not happen. Houston wound up winning that game with a stunning comeback. I think Duke beats Florida in the Final Four, and then I do like Arizona over Michigan in the Final Four. Like I'm kind of obsessed, well, with how both of these teams were playing, and there was a real case where they were my in my books, the two best teams in college basketball. Um, and so with that, but I think Duke and Arizona would be a great national championship game. But I think every year there's kind of like an aha moment where you look where there's like a big result that comes out. And more likely than not, it's a great team winning a true road game against another tough team, a tough high caliber team. I think Arizona has two of those cases this year, because Arizona beat UConn at Stores back in November in non-conference play, and then back in February, so they went to Houston and beat Houston without Koa Pete. So who plays a big role in how their offense functions. So you have those, and then the way Arizona's been playing, they've been playing as well as anybody in the country. And in my book, Arizona to me is the most complete team in all of college basketball. So I'm going to pick Arizona to win the national championship, defeating Duke in a classic on Monday, April the 6th, 20 days from now. So I'm going to go here. Going to go Arizona over Duke in the championship game to win it all. So it should be a fun tournament. I'm very much excited for it. It's one of my favorite, one of the best sports holidays of the entire year. So I can't wait to see how everything transpires. So that'll do it for this edition of the podcast. So it's obviously trying to get things ramped up again as we continue on deeper into other things as well. So until then, this is John Flynn saying so long, and I'll be back here on the podcast pretty soon. Take care, everybody, and so long.